Welcome to your deep dive. And today we're going to be exploring a theory that has captivated historians and archaeologists and conspiracy theorists alike for decades, for centuries even. It's the idea that advanced extraterrestrial beings have influenced human history.
That's right. We're talking about ancient alien theory, the belief that beings like the Anunnaki or the Watchers visited Earth in the distant past, leaving their mark on ancient myths and sacred texts, and even the development of civilization itself.
We've got a fascinating stack of sources for this deep dive. Everything from ancient Sumerian texts in the Book of Enoch to modern research on sites like Göbekli Tepe in Turkey and the face on Mars.
Wow.
Our mission for this deep dive is to uncover what these sources reveal about possible extraterrestrial contact and the rise of secret societies dedicated to preserving this ancient knowledge.
It's a journey that'll take us from the depths of ancient mythology to the heart of NASA's space program. And we'll be examining a lot of really intriguing connections along the way and probably challenging conventional narratives along the way as well.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get into this. So let's start with one of the most pervasive myths across ancient cultures, the Great Flood. We've all heard the story from the Bible, but what's interesting is that similar flood narratives appear in countless cultures worldwide.
That's right. From the Sumerian epic of Gilgamesh to the Hindu Puranas and Native American oral traditions. I mean, we see these striking similarities in these flood myths, despite their geographical and temporal separation, despite being all over the world and from different time periods. And it kind of raises the question, why is this particular story so universal?
Right, yeah. I mean, is it simply a reflection of humanity's kind of shared experience with devastating floods? Or could it point to a real cataclysmic event that left a profound mark on our collective memory?
That's one of the central questions that we'll be grappling with here today. Some researchers, like Randall Carlson, propose a scientific explanation for the flood myth, and they point to evidence like soot and nanodiamonds and platinum deposits. These are things that date back around 12,500 to 13,000 years ago, suggesting a massive comet impact, and it probably would have been near the North Pole.
A comet impact? That sounds pretty catastrophic. So you're saying like a comet impact triggered massive melting of ice sheets and that caused like widespread flooding all over the place. Is that the idea?
Precisely. Carlson suggests this impact would have created tsunamis, huge tsunamis, devastating tsunamis, and rapid sea level rise, which explains the sudden and widespread nature of the flooding that's described in so many ancient accounts.
Wow, yeah, that certainly aligns with the descriptions of a world submerged in water. But some sources propose even more extraordinary explanations for the flood, like the water vapor canopy theory. Can you explain what that is?
Sure. The water vapor canopy theory suggests that before the flood, Earth was surrounded by a layer of water vapor in the atmosphere, and this canopy, proponents argue, created a much more hospitable environment than we know today, possibly even contributing to the long lifespans that are attributed to the biblical patriarchs before the flood.
Oh, wow. Okay, so according to this theory, the comet impact didn't just cause flooding, but it also disrupted this like protective vapor canopy.
Yeah.
And that led to the more hostile environment that we know today.
Exactly. This theory offers a potential explanation for the diminished lifespans that are described in the Bible after the flood. So if the canopy was shielding Earth from harmful radiation, its collapse could account for the shorter lifespans that we see in later generations.
That is fascinating. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. So let's dive into some of those ancient texts that actually suggest a connection between the Great Flood and extraterrestrial beings.
Yeah, one of the most compelling sources is the Sumerian creation myth, the Enuma Elish. It describes a pantheon of powerful deities, the Anunnaki, who came to Earth in search of a precious resource, gold.
The Anunnaki. These are the beings at the heart of Zecharia Sitchin's kind of controversial work, right? He claimed they genetically engineered humans to mine gold for them.
Yes, Sitchin's interpretation of the Sumerian texts sparked a lot of fascination and a lot of debate as well. He argued that the Anunnaki needed gold to repair their planet's atmosphere, and so they created humans as a slave race to do their bidding, basically to get the gold for them.
Sitchin's claims are pretty out there. But the idea of these advanced beings influencing early humans is a recurring theme, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we see it in the Book of Enoch as well.
Right. The Book of Enoch tells the story of the Watchers, a group of fallen angels who disobeyed God by coming down to Earth and interacting with humans. They shared forbidden knowledge like metallurgy and astronomy and weaponry, and some of the Watchers even interbred with human women.
That's where we get the stories of giants, right? The offspring of angels and humans who according to some interpretations, played a role in the events leading up to the flood.
Yeah, the Book of Enoch describes these giants, the Nephilim, and they were causing chaos and corruption, and that ultimately led to a divine judgment in the form of the flood.
It's so fascinating how these ancient texts weave together these tales of advanced beings and forbidden knowledge and cataclysmic events. And it raises a really important question. If these stories hold even a grain of truth, what happened to that ancient knowledge? Was it lost in the flood, or did it survive, maybe passed down through secret societies?
That's where our deep dive takes an even more intriguing turn. We'll explore the possibility that these secret societies emerged from the remnants of a post-flood world. They were tasked with preserving and transmitting the knowledge that was bestowed upon humanity by these advanced beings. Maybe they were the Anunnaki, maybe they were the Watchers, or maybe they were some other extraterrestrial force.
Okay, that's a really intriguing idea. So how do we start to unravel this mystery? Where do we go from here?
Well, I think a good place to start is by examining the archaeological record. There are some compelling clues that support this idea. One striking example is Göbekli Tepe, a megalithic site in Turkey that dates back to around 10,000 BC.
Göbekli Tepe, that's the site with those massive T-shaped pillars, right? The ones that are adorned with these intricate carvings of animals and all these mysterious symbols.
Exactly. It predates Stonehenge, and it even predates the invention of pottery. It's one of the oldest known monumental structures on Earth.
Wow, that's incredible. So what makes Göbekli Tepe so significant in this context? Why are we talking about it?
What's fascinating about Göbekli Tepe is that it appears to have been deliberately buried around 8,000 BC, almost as if its creators were preserving it for a future time. Like they knew it was too important to be lost to history.
Like a time capsule of ancient knowledge. That's a really cool idea. But how does it connect to the Anunnaki or the Watchers?
Well, if we consider Sitchin's interpretation of the Sumerian texts, the first Anunnaki king, Allalu, landed in the Tigris-Euphrates Valley, not far from Göbekli Tepe. So could this site be a marker of their arrival, maybe a place of worship, or even a repository of their knowledge?
That's a pretty tantalizing possibility. And the fact that Göbekli Tepe's construction techniques were so advanced for its time kind of lends credence to the idea that its builders possessed knowledge beyond what we typically attribute to hunter-gatherer societies.
Exactly. It challenges our conventional understanding of how civilization developed. Instead of this gradual progression from simple to complex, we see this sudden burst of sophistication at Göbekli Tepe. It suggests a possible influence from outside sources, something beyond our current understanding.
So we're talking about a potential lineage of knowledge that stretches back to the dawn of civilization, possibly even further back to those advanced beings that we were talking about.
That's the theory. And when we look at the archaeological record, we find some compelling clues that support this idea. One striking example is Göbekli Tepe, a megalithic site in Turkey dating back to around 10,000 BC.
Göbekli Tepe, that's the site with those massive T-shaped pillars, right?
Yeah.
All adorned with these intricate carvings of animals and mysterious symbols.
Exactly. And it predates Stonehenge and even the invention of pottery, making it one of the oldest known monumental structures on Earth.
It's like it just pops out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's really amazing.
So how does it actually connect to the Anunnaki or these Watchers?
Well, if we consider Sitchin's interpretation of the Sumerian text, the first Anunnaki king, Allalu, landed in the Tigris-Euphrates Valley. That's not far from Göbekli Tepe. So could this site be a marker of their arrival, maybe a place of worship, or even a repository of their knowledge?
Oh, that's a very interesting thought. And the fact that Göbekli Tepe's construction techniques were so advanced for its time really lends credence to the idea that its builders possess knowledge beyond what we typically think about for hunter-gatherer societies.
Right. It challenges our conventional understanding of how civilization developed. Instead of a gradual progression from simple to complex, we see this sudden burst of sophistication at Göbekli Tepe, suggesting a possible influence from outside sources.
Okay, so let's delve back into the Anunnaki narrative for a minute. You mentioned that Allalu claimed to have found gold on Earth, and that kind of sparked a power struggle among the Anunnaki. So what happened next?
Well, Allah's message reached Anu, the reigning king of Nibiru. He was pretty skeptical at first, but he decided to send his son Enki to Earth to verify the claims and secure the gold.
Okay, so who's Enki?
Enki was known for his wisdom and his ingenuity. He was a skilled engineer, a geneticist, a bit of a Renaissance man among the Anunnaki. He traveled to Earth with a team of Anunnaki to assess the situation.
So Enki is a bit like the Spock of the Anunnaki.
Yeah, guess you could say that.
Like a cool-headed scientist in charge of the mission.
He's portrayed as a pragmatic problem solver, more inclined to diplomacy than force, and he even attempts to mediate between his father and Alalu, who was also his father-in-law. So it was a very complicated family dynamic.
Oh, wow, that's really interesting. So did he find the gold?
He did, but extracting it proved to be a much more challenging task than they anticipated. According to Sitchin, the Anunnaki were facing labor shortages and considered using advanced technology to mine the gold themselves.
But that's when they came up with the idea of creating humans.
Yeah.
Right, to serve as their workforce.
That's how Sitchin interprets it. Enki, with the assistance of his half-sister, Ninma, who is a skilled medical practitioner, they used their advanced genetic engineering to manipulate the DNA of primates, creating a new species capable of performing the labor that they needed.
So instead of building robots or using some kind of other futuristic technology, they opted for creating a whole new species. That seems like a pretty extreme solution.
It does, doesn't it? But if we consider the possibility that they possessed very advanced genetic knowledge, perhaps it was the most efficient way to address their labor shortage.
It also raises some pretty interesting ethical questions about the nature of creation and the implications of manipulating life, but I think we could probably save that discussion for another time. So they created humans, put them to work in the gold mines. What happened next?
Well, the Anunnaki established settlements and cities. They created a sophisticated civilization with advanced technology, agriculture, social structures, and Sitchin actually refers to the civilization as the Eden, or Edan, a term that he suggests relates to the biblical Garden of Eden.
Interesting. So the Anunnaki were essentially playing God, creating a world in their own image. But their grand plans didn't exactly go smoothly, did they? You mentioned earlier that their civilization faced some major setbacks.
That's right. According to Sitchin, there were rebellions among the human workers. There were power struggles among the Anunnaki themselves, and even a catastrophic event that devastated the Earth. He links this event to the biblical flood, suggesting it was caused by Nibiru's close passage to Earth, triggering these massive earthquakes and volcanic eruptions, and a shift in the Earth's axis.
Wow, so the very beings who created humans inadvertently caused their near destruction. That's a pretty potent image.
It is, isn't it? It speaks to the cyclical nature of creation and destruction that's prevalent in many ancient mythologies.
So, but the story doesn't just end there, does it? The Anunnaki eventually recovered, and they continued to influence human civilization. So how does this connect to the rise of secret societies?
Well, according to Sitchin, after the flood subsided, the Anunnaki realized that they couldn't just abandon their creation. They needed to guide humanity, help them rebuild and advance. So they created these secret societies to preserve and transmit their knowledge.
So these societies were entrusted with safeguarding the wisdom of the Anunnaki, passing it down through generations, ensuring that humanity wouldn't lose the knowledge needed to progress. That's a huge responsibility. But wouldn't that knowledge be incredibly powerful? I mean, wouldn't there be a risk of it being corrupted or used for nefarious purposes?
Absolutely, that's a valid concern. And as we delve into the history of secret societies, we see evidence of both noble intentions and shadowy agendas.
Okay, I'm definitely eager to explore that. But before we go down that rabbit hole, let's connect this back to something we touched upon earlier. Ancient Egypt. You mentioned that there are potential links between secret societies and ancient Egyptian mysteries. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. Ancient Egypt is a fascinating case study because it's a civilization that seemed to possess knowledge and technology far beyond what we typically associate with that era. We see this in their monumental architecture, their sophisticated understanding of astronomy, and even their intriguing depictions of what appear to be modern-day technology.
You're talking about those controversial Abydos helicopter hieroglyphs, right? Those carvings that seem to show a helicopter, a tank, and even a plane.
Exactly. Now, mainstream Egyptologists, they try to explain these carvings as a palimpsest, meaning that the carvings were made over older hieroglyphs, and that the different layers have created this illusion of modern technology.
But not everyone buys that explanation, right?
No, many researchers argue that the carvings are too precise and too detailed to be mere coincidence. They suggest that it could be evidence of advanced technology, perhaps knowledge passed down from the Anunnaki or other ancient astronaut visitors.
That's a pretty bold claim, but it wouldn't be the first time that seemingly impossible ancient technology has challenged our understanding of the past. So how do secret societies tie into ancient Egypt?
Well, we see a strong connection through the Freemasons, one of the oldest and most well-known fraternal organizations in the world. Researchers like Christopher Knight and Robert Lomas, they've traced Masonic rituals and symbolism back to the Egyptian story of Isis, Osiris, and Horus.
Right, the death and resurrection of Osiris, the quest for hidden knowledge. There are definitely some strong parallels there.
Right, the Masonic fascination with Egyptian mythology and symbolism suggests a potential lineage of knowledge stretching back to those ancient times. And it gets even more interesting when we consider the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, which has 33 degrees, each representing a higher level of initiation and understanding.
33 degrees. That number seems to keep popping up. We talked about it in relation to the Apollo 11 moon landing and the location of the Mars Pathfinder landing site. Is it just a coincidence, or is there something more to this number?
That's a question that has intrigued researchers and conspiracy theorists alike, and it's one that will take us deeper into the realm of secret societies and NASA's hidden agendas, and the possibility that ancient knowledge has been influencing events in our modern world.
Okay, so let's unpack this mystery of this recurring number 33. We've seen it pop up in relation to the Freemasons and NASA missions, even JFK's assassination. I mean, is it just a random number, or does it hold some deeper significance?
Well, as you mentioned, 33 is a highly symbolic number for the Freemasons, particularly within the Scottish Rite. It represents the highest attainable degree, a culmination of spiritual enlightenment and esoteric knowledge.
Right, it's like reaching the top level in a video game. You've unlocked all the secrets and achieved mastery. But how does that connect to ancient knowledge or extraterrestrial influences? Is it just a symbolic echo of those ancient traditions?
Some researchers believe that the number 33 might be more than just a symbolic rank. They suggest it could be a key code to unlocking hidden knowledge, possibly connected to what some call hyperdimensional physics.
Hyperdimensional physics. That sounds like something straight out of a science fiction movie. What exactly is that, and how does it relate to 33?
It's a complex concept, but essentially hyperdimensional physics proposes the existence of dimensions beyond our normal perception of space and time. Think of it like layers of reality stacked on top of each other, each with its own unique set of laws and possibilities.
Okay, I'm starting to get a picture. So it's like those extra dimensions in string theory or the multiverse concept in cosmology, but maybe with a more mystical or esoteric twist.
Yeah, there are definitely some parallels there. And some researchers believe that ancient civilizations, perhaps guided by the Anunnaki or other advanced beings, possess knowledge of these higher dimensions and how to access them.
So they were tapping into these hidden realms, using their knowledge to achieve incredible feats of technology and consciousness. It's like they had a cheat code to reality that we've lost somewhere along the way.
It's a captivating idea, isn't it? And if 33 is a key to unlocking those secrets, then the other recurring number, 19.5, could be another piece of the puzzle.
Right, 19.5, the alignment of Sirius during Buzz Aldrin's Masonic ceremony on the moon, the location of the Mars Pathfinder landing site. It keeps appearing in these seemingly significant contexts.
And there's a fascinating mathematical connection between these two numbers. The sign of 19.471 degrees, a key angle in tetrahedral geometry, one of the 5 Platonic solids, is 0.3333.
Wait, hold on. Tetrahedrons, those are those pyramid-shaped objects, right? What do they have to do with all of this?
Tetrahedrons are considered fundamental building blocks of the universe in sacred geometry, representing harmony and balance. Ancient civilizations often incorporated these shapes into their architecture and spiritual practices.
So you're saying that 33 isn't just a random number chosen by the Freemasons, it's actually embedded in the geometry of the universe, possibly hinting at these higher dimensions and ancient knowledge.
It's a mind-bending concept, but it fits into the larger narrative we've been exploring. And remember, Farouk Elbaz, the Egyptian geologist who chose the landing sites for the Apollo missions.
Right, his father was an expert on ancient Egyptian stellar religion, which connects back to the whole Sirius and Isis symbolism.
Exactly. So we have this intricate web of connections, the Freemasons, ancient Egypt, NASA, these recurring numbers, all pointing to the possibility that ancient knowledge has been influencing events in our modern world, perhaps even shaping the course of human exploration.
Wow, this deep dive has taken us on quite a journey. We've explored flood myths and ancient texts, secret societies, and even NASA conspiracies. It's been a wild ride, and honestly, I'm left with more questions than answers. But isn't that the point of exploration? To open our minds to new possibilities and challenge conventional narratives?
Absolutely. This deep dive wasn't about presenting definitive answers or endorsing any particular theory. It was about encouraging you to think critically, to question assumptions, and to explore these fascinating topics for yourself.
And as we wrap up this incredible deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought.
Yeah.
Maybe those numbers, 73 and 19.5, aren't just codes to be deciphered, but frequencies to be tuned into.
Frequencies. What do you mean by that?
Well, what if, instead of looking for physical evidence or hidden messages, we shift our perspective And consider the possibility that accessing these higher dimensions, tapping into that ancient knowledge, is about aligning ourselves with specific frequencies or vibrations.
It's a fascinating concept. Maybe the answers we seek aren't out there in the universe, but within ourselves, waiting to be unlocked by a shift in consciousness, a tuning of our inner frequencies.
Food for thought indeed. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the mysteries of ancient knowledge and the possibility of extraterrestrial influences. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and who knows what amazing discoveries you might make.